For over a year now, right-wingers have been absolutely obsessed with Benghazi. You would almost think that from this point forward, 9/11 will be when we talk about Benghazi, not about the 9/11 attacks in New York City, just blocks from our studios here. And there's this incredible thing that's going on, as Richard Pullman writes on Newsworks, which is that if you watched 60 Minutes the other day, you might have noticed that there was a very short apology that happened at the very end of the show, which basically was admitting, 60 Minutes admitting that a story they ran about Benghazi, one of the main stories that right-wingers pointed to talk about how evil President Obama was in terms of Benghazi and how he had mishandled it, was a bogus story. If you haven't followed it, I will tell you what Richard Pullman wrote. If you haven't tracked the 60 Minute story and then the story about the story, this is the story. Correspondent Lara Logan hinged her report on the purported adventures of British security contractor Dylan Davies, who appeared on camera under a pseudonym. Davies was billed as the first eyewitness to talk about the lax security at the diplomatic compound in Benghazi where the attack took place. And he said that he was compelled to ride to the rescue, scaling a 12-foot wall, bashing a terrorist with a rifle butt, later sneaking into a Benghazi hospital and seeing the dead body of U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens. Conservatives went crazy. It turns out, though, that he was never actually there. That's the long and short of it. 60 Minutes has, after a lot of pressure, admitted to this. They ginned up this phony story, and on October 31st, the Washington Post disclosed that Davies, in the immediate aftermath of the Benghazi attacks, filed an incident report with his security employer, Blue Mountain, saying he had been nowhere near the compound, never scaled a wall, or rifle-butted a guy in the head, never saw Ambassador Stevens' body. Instead, he spent most of the night at his Benghazi beachside villa. 60 Minutes has apologized for the story. Conservatives are silent, Lewis. All of a sudden, we hear nothing from the right, who has been apoplectic over the Benghazi story for over a year at this point, something like 14 months now, about, oh, wait a second, most of our outrage was sparked by a story that wasn't even true. Are we ever going to hear from the Benghazyists about this?
I really doubt it. It still happened, right? So they still think that Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, whoever, willfully and knowingly decided to let it happen.
They
and
still think
that's going to be their story. It's
they
gonna
still
continue.
think that, Lewis. However, the primary evidence of the so-called lax security has just been debunked as in made up, straight made up by Dylan Davies. So it's much harder to make that case believable now.
It is. We realize that. But do you think that that is going to stop anyone who has only been talking about Benghazi for a year? I mean, really, is that going to change? No.
I don't really know. I mean, I hope so. It's not, I don't have overwhelming evidence that that's the case. Those who want to believe these stories seem to do so even in the absence of evidence. Typically, their standard, Lewis, is unless you can prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that my story didn't and couldn't have happened, I'm going to continue believing it, as is often the case with conspiracy theorists. So you're right, this may not really do anything for some of the more extreme conspiracy theorists, but the more moderate individuals who think it was grossly mishandled based in great part on the story of Dylan Davies, we would hope they would change their minds at least a little bit.
I'll tell you what was mishandled. It was the response
Yeah.
by Hillary Clinton and the administration to this incident. That was what was mishandled.